I don't know if you guys have noticed, maybe you have, the most popular video on this channel still is, and I think it's hilarious that it just kind of exploded, was my video on the false prophet. I don't know why it's so popular. Maybe it's because I said his name. But it seems as though there's too much going on surrounding that particular guy that makes it really hard to deny that if he's not him, you know, lately, what we've been seeing is more of this right hand, left hand stuff, right? Black hat, white hat. On one hand, you've got a WEF director, a high level WEF director, who clearly, at least in her past, has shown that she doesn't really care for our rights. She thinks that we should all get along to the point of everybody being brought down to a certain level. And the funny thing is, if you guys noticed, she actually claims to be conservative, which, why would a conservative have essentially communistic ideals, except for the fact that she's an utter liar? Or, you know, when you look back, for example, side note, to the Bolshevik regime, there were conservatives and there were liberals in the Bolsheviks. The Trotskyites and the Leninites, right? Trotsky more conservative, Lenin more liberal, at least liberal. I don't know why they use these terms, because they're both psychopaths. But one was more traditionalist, one was more modernist, I guess the best way to put it. They were both into control. They were both into subjugating people that weren't them. They were both into some evil stuff. So I'm not surprised, honestly, that a WF member would on one hand claim to be, you know, conservative, and on the other hand being acting directly like a globalist, communist, you know, fascist weirdo. It's not surprising to me. What is also not surprising to me, and again, I don't claim to know these things exactly, so grain of salt this. Maybe I'm correct, maybe. And if I am, it's only a gift. It's not because I've heard a word or because I think, you know, God is... If I am a prophet, I have no idea. But I do know that the way he's acting and the way things are pointing, and the fact that AI is being given so much power and focus in our current political atmosphere, scientific atmosphere, that for this same guy to buy the platform, try to expand it to, you know, what's he calling it? The X app, the app that does everything, right? For him to talk about AI the way that he talks about it, for him to, you know, warn us the way that he tries to warn us and get us, you know, kind of on his team. And then on the other hand, you know, talking about how free speech is necessary and bad-mouthing Soros, which that doesn't take much. Soros seems to be an intentional, like, you know, dark side of the force type character that was put there on purpose. I mean, what else could he be? The guy's been in charge of so many evil things. It's really not, it's not funny, I don't think. But so yeah, on one end, we've got him telling us everything will be fine. She'll just take care of the technical, or the operation side. He'll take care of the technical side. And then in the same breath, essentially, you know, castigate somebody who probably knows her very well and works very closely with her and communicates with her about all kinds of evil world plans and whatnot. And I think it's hilarious too that he has these open spats with other rich folk. You know, the Bill Gates war that he had like a year ago or something, where they were basically talking smack about each other. If those guys don't know each other, I'm kind of blown away. By the way, not to be too conspiratorial or random, but check out the product Appeal, APEEL. What is that? It's basically spraying like motor oil on our food to keep it from rotting. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not going to be eating that stuff. Although I might not have a choice, considering how deep their grasp is. Really good chance that Elon's in on that stuff too. There, I said his name. Sorry. I keep watching, you know, I stay off Twitter as much as I can now, just because it really is a cesspool. If you guys are ever on there, you'll realize very quickly that, maybe some of you are watching it from Twitter, which would be hilarious, but what some of you may realize is that although, you know, free speech, he still says things like freedom of speech doesn't mean, you know, freedom of reach or whatever. You know, these sayings that essentially allude to, I'm your buddy, just do what I say, you know? That sounds very antichristy in and of itself. But I don't think he's the actual guy. It's possible. It's totally possible. But he's telling the future in a way that is very prophet-like. That's another reason why I have a hard time letting go of him as the greatest potential. It actually, a lot of it makes a lot of sense to me that he would be the one that would come out on the scene first, right? Because never once do we get any real information about the false prophet until Revelation specifically. We do hear about in Daniel the Antichrist small group that brings him to power. And clearly, you know, for him to have the worldwide status that he has almost immediately, have all the connections that he has, have the under the table agreement with the three kings of the south while they take out the king of the south, the three horns of the south, I should say. If you guys don't know anything about this stuff, I've done videos on absolutely all of it. You know, the Antichrist's war with the king of the south. I'll just truncate it, make it small real quick for you. But essentially, one of the reasons why Antichrist becomes so popular so fast, not only because of his miracles, obviously, and I'm sure they're all tied together, but a king of the south rises up essentially in the what seems to be Islamic nations of the world, and has three horns of power, three grand nations of the south. Hypothetically, I don't know these things, but let's say like Turkey, Iran, Egypt, you know, all representing the areas around them. You know, because the way things are going, you know, the borders of different countries could quickly shift under the right circumstances, especially when you have a bunch of countries that, although they don't have the exact same secular, you know, adherence to the religion the same way, Shiite, Muslim, all Sunnis, all these things, they all fight with each other right now. It's very much looking like, it doesn't say explicitly, but that those three horns, although they may outwardly disagree on things right now, will soon come together as subversive, essentially frenemies of the Antichrist, where they feign to be his enemy, support this king of the south, have him go to war with the Antichrist. And of course, this makes perfect sense, because if he's coming from the west, again, spoilers if you guys haven't seen the videos, there's a lot of them, but Antichrist comes from the United States, from Babylon, okay? He takes over Europe, revived Rome, and then goes to war with the king of the south, backed by the three horns. So it does stand to reason that somebody like Elon, in his position of power, financial and social, of course, would have the ability to make these connections happen. It would also stand to reason that all of these leaders are either Nephilim themselves, or, you know, overt outright Satanists on Satan's team, you know, beforehand. And truly, in Daniel, these horns already exist as the small horn comes up and grows into greater prominence than all of them, right? So they very much will be in place like bowling balls ready to be knocked down, and they are said to give their power over to the beasts for a time and a half. So they essentially, by the tribulation's midpoint, will be ready to give over basically the entire power of 2/3 or 3/4 of the world to Antichrist directly, so as to, you know, foster Satan's plan of worldwide domination. And then eventually we see towards the end of Revelation, especially during the destruction of Babylon, that the kings of the east join in. The Euphrates dries up and symbolically allows them to come across and help attack Jerusalem right before the return of the Lord, showing very much that the eastern quadrant of the world is not the Antichrist's stomping grounds, very much because they're easily controlled. They're already very much satanic. They already are clearly very anti-Christian. That is where I believe the most amount of actual, like, physical, like, to death suffering is going on. I'm sure you guys have seen it and could agree. There's some of that going on in Africa too, I won't lie. The Middle Eastern nations aren't that friendly to Christians, but for the time being, there's kind of an unsettled peace because of all the economic benefit that comes from the Christian and Jewish business folk that are over there. So it stands that for the time being, again, that they would be allowed to do their thing. But yeah, for me, it's all wrapping up nicely. The Bible doesn't say specifically when the little horn will pop out or when he will grow to prominence. But if I were a betting man, I would pay attention to what Elon is doing and who his friends are directly. Every now and then, you know, like he'll talk to a Joe Rogan or somebody like that, and he'll go make an appearance and try and win over as many friends as possible, socially, politically. I would look out for that. I would look and see. Again, I have a feeling the Antichrist is either a pundit or some sort of informative figure that's perhaps not all that controversial. I'm still convinced he comes from the right. Obviously, in his heart of hearts, he's pure evil and the literal son of Satan, as it were. I believe he's Nephilim. I don't think he can actually be like the son of Satan, except for the fact that he's likely engendered by Satan and birthed through a woman. Which again, if you look at Elon's history and some of the weird stuff that's said about him, I can't say it's gospel. I can't say it's 100% true, but I can say there's enough weird stuff surrounding that guy that if he's not the guy, which I don't think he is, he's definitely in some kind of friendship, you know, relational, I don't know. There's some intertwining there that's not been brought to the surface just yet. But there is indication that Antichrist will be visible on the world scale before the tribulation starts. Not that he'll technically be recognized as the Messiah the way that he will be once the tribulation gets underway and really starts moving along. You know, in the world in general, the world of unbelievers in mass won't fully accept him until the midpoint of the tribulation. But so many things will be going on by the time it starts and commences. You know, the first two world wars that occur essentially at the tribulation's first half's midpoint. So 1 3/4 years in. Again, see the videos, guys. I got tons of them. If you guys are really truly interested, I broke them down. My teacher has an entire, his exegesis is ridiculous. It is absolutely the most comprehensive thing you'll ever see, and it takes all of the Old Testament that has to do with the time of the end, Jacob's trouble, you know, the great tribulation and tribulation, Daniel's 70th week. There's a bunch of different terms for it. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, guys. He's very much showing his hat, and at the same time not. It's hilarious. It's like he's got a two-sided hat. One's black, one's white. He keeps flipping it back and forth and keeps making all these stupid statements. And, you know, for everything that he does that is obviously evil, he'll do some stuff that is seemingly on the side of reason, which I think is the whole point. I think his whole goal is to maintain a center line as much as possible. You know, and soon, as I've noted before in my last video and others, the things that we see as so terribly wrong with this world will start to be unwound, because their illogical nature alone will be shown for what it is. And the Antichrist, just like Satan, will likely have a great amount of worldly reasoning that makes a lot of sense, and will have that tiny little kernel of truth in and around some of what he says, enough so that it's able to be sold to the masses, right? And look for the false prophet to be backing him up the whole time. The prophet's basically the main priest of the religion, right? Whereas the Antichrist is the main focus, and his father, of course. So that's the update. Let me know what you think in the comments. Honestly, he's I think to those of us who are paying attention, he's just too much of a snake to be easily put aside as a potential. But there's also time for things to change, you know. That being said, we are being shown a lot of these, again, Bill Gates, George Soros, Clintons, you know, Obamas, all these clearly evil people. We're having these people shoved in our face very specifically so as to freak us out, and to get the politically minded of us, the ones that don't know the Bible, that don't understand that every single prophecy about Antichrist has to all line up, otherwise it doesn't qualify. They're trying to get us to freak out and to put our finger on different people or situations that truly aren't backed up by the Bible. And this is something I should notate in a video, but if it's going to be one prophecy fulfilled, it has to be all of them, otherwise one doesn't qualify. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. Share, like, subscribe if you want. We'll see. Seems like everybody that joins, I get another one that drops off. Of course, I don't say a lot of things that people like, and I completely understand. So thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching. I know this will only get like 30, maybe 40 views, but you know, for those of us that are paying attention, that want to see these things, if I'm saying anything that's of any value, the Lord makes sure it gets where it's supposed to be, right? It's not about me. It's not about this channel. It's not about any one of us. It's about His Spirit and whether or not He has decided His word is going to land in your ear. And it's all by free will. If you want to know these things and this is what's to be known, so be it. He'll make it happen. And we have to remember that too in our daily walk. You know, if people aren't listening to us, it's not us they're not listening to. It's Him they're rejecting. Anyway, guys, I hope you're having a good day. Talk to you soon.